Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Shane.
What is one thing that you'll repeatedly sing the praises of that other folks might not appreciate or be aware of? Like, what are you kind of a cheerleader for?
Oh, gosh. Okay, one thing. I've got three things.
Oh my goodness. All right.
A couple of things. So, penny loafers, paper planners.
Wait, no, you can't stop. We're going to go through this one by one. Why penny loafers?
Because high heels are overrated.
Okay.
And I
penny
love
loafers
a short
specifically
pant.
for women.
Oh, for women. Yes.
Or
yes.
for
Not
individuals
for
who wear
men.
high heels or are expected to wear high
Yeah,
heels.
no.
Okay.
Maybe I just had a reaction, not for men somehow in my mind.
Yeah, see, I don't
Because I think
love
that
penny
reminds me.
loafers.
Yeah, it reminds me too much of like I went to Catholic high school and we wore uniforms. So penny loafers
Oh.
for men, but a penny loafer for me.
Okay. Gotcha.
Great news.
All right. Next.
Yeah. Okay. Paper planners.
Oh,
I feel like I don't have to explain that.
You don't have to explain that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then more recently, like old school e-readers, like a just a plain Kindle.
Oh, that you can do nothing else except for read on.
Yeah. Just read. I guess you could just do a book, but books take up, I feel like, paper and all that.
Yeah. So this wasn't
get into an argument.
This wasn't my answer, but we're going to talk about this. Are you more of an e-reader? Do you like digital media, like reading medium, or do you like books more? Like if space wasn't an issue.
Oh no, then books.
Okay.
For sure. But I like having the ability to have many books in my pocket.
See. Okay.
Because I am a switcher of books. Like I'll be reading a couple books at once.
Okay.
And then also, but space notwithstanding.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of the opposite.
Paper.
I hate e-readers. For me personally, I don't engage with them like I would otherwise, and I very much, I appreciate a physical book. Like something to me is just, I love a physical book. I'll make room for it. I 100% understand the arguments. My partner has an e-reader, all of that, but no, I personally cannot engage on an e-reader.
Really?
It's just not quite how I work. What are the things like? Or you have a question about this?
Well, I was going to say, what if they could somehow make an e-reader that smelled like a book?
I don't know. I actually don't know what it is about books. Okay. I don't know like specifically what the experience is. I do like having a physical book though, because that's the thing. My partner gives me crap because I don't like. I was going to say I don't like libraries. That's not true at all. I will sing the praises of libraries. I think libraries are very important, especially in this specific moment.
Yeah.
But I like owning books because part of our decor in our household are seriously books. We have books everywhere. Like that's something that's it's really meaningful to me. And this is really funny because this is going to transition out to something that I'm like going to kind of advocate for. That is so. This is not who I am, but I've just discovered this recently. I got married last fall, as you know, as listeners know. And it was the first time in my life that I ever, it wasn't a super fancy wedding. It was very us, but instead of having a tuxedo, I bought myself a tailored suit. It's the first time in my life that I've ever really had anything tailored for me. And this is like, it's not super fancy, but like off the rack, as opposed to just buying something off the rack.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this suit is... I've worn this suit. We got married in October. I've worn this suit over a half dozen times in 3 months. I'm not a fancy person. We do not do fancy things. But if there is just like an opportunity for me to like put at least like this jacket on that like fits me so very well. And so like I'm wearing like a thermal Henley today. I wear flannel all the time, right? Like I am not a fancy person, but like have the opportunity to like just get like one thing that fits you really nicely. It doesn't even have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive or anything like that, but just like something that fits you really well. Oh, there's just something about it.
It's a really nice suit.
Oh, thank you.
I'll give you that.
This isn't even the purpose of this, but I do appreciate that, Vicky. Science is fascinating. But don't just take my word for it. Join us as we hear stories from scientists for everyone. I'm Shane Hanlon.
And I'm Vicky Thompson.
And this is Third Pod from the Sun. Okay, we are here talking about things we love. and things we want to sing the praises of. And it's, Vicky, it's not just to talk about how good I look in a suit.
Oh, you've been waiting to talk about how good you look in a suit.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna regret this entire beginning of this episode. Yeah. But here we are. But no, there is always a third pod serving, like, there is a method to my madness, essentially.
Okay, tell me about this.
Okay,
what are we hearing today?
It might be roundabout, but we are hearing from a director at NASA who, in addition to her many, many responsibilities, she's not out here kind of doing her own QVC channel like we are, hawking wares and that type of thing, but she is advocating on behalf of her division and sing the praises of her division and the folks who work for her and the really great work they do to make sure they have the support and resources that they need to do that critical work. Our interviewer was Ashely Hamer.
Hello, my name is Christa Peters-Lidard. I am currently the acting director for Sciences and Exploration at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center.
Amazing. So what specifically does that entail?
Well, the Sciences and Exploration Directorate contains 4 different divisions that look at Earth and space science. So our 4 divisions are the Earth Sciences Division, the Heliophysics Division, which does space weather and everything about the sun, the Solar System Exploration Division, which of course studies planetary science as well as not just our own solar system, but other solar systems, and also our Astrophysics Division, which of course studies the universe. You know, I oversee really critical programs that are either orbiting or in development. And so a lot of our time is spent making sure that those programs are successful. So many of you have seen some of the amazing images from our James Webb Space Telescope or from some of our Earth science missions, like the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission. You know, some of you may have seen our OSIRIS-REx grab a sample from the asteroid Bennu. I mean, those are the kind of things that we review. We want to make sure they're on track, that things are, they have what they need. And so my job is to make sure we have a successful science organization. And so, you know, I sort of live vicariously through all the scientists in our divisions that do the really amazing science. And I'm here to help them when things get into trouble, and then also to help direct resources towards the next big thing that we want to do.
Yeah, that sounds like a really important job. That's awesome. So just to step back, what inspired you to get into science?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I loved math and science from a really early age. And I just read books all the time. I loved books about constellations and earth science and volcanoes and planets. And so as I went through school, the real light bulb moment for me was when I took earth science in 9th grade. I just loved it. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And so I sort of went for an undergraduate degree in geophysics. And I just was looking for opportunities to do earth science. And I really found a break with the federal government, actually, because they had an internship program at the U.S. Geological Survey. And that's what brought me into hydrology, which is the field that I studied. It was through my USGS colleagues that they turned me on to remote sensing and remote sensing in hydrology. And so my eyes were opened that, you know, I could use satellites and the vantage point of space to do the science that I was really into, which was understanding the water cycle. And so that's sort of what brought me to grad school and to NASA, was that moment when I learned from my internship. And they said, you should call the head of the hydrology branch at Goddard Space Flight Center. And so I cold called him. This was before Google, you know, wow. Before email, right? I called him. And I'm like, I'm an undergrad. I'm looking at grad school. What should I do? I'm interested in remote sensing and hydrology. And he pointed me to ultimately my advisor at Princeton University because they were doing field campaigns. And so ultimately, not only did I get my degree in that area, I later had that job.
Wow.
So when I came to Goddard, I became the head of the hydrology lab, which, so I got to give props to Ted Ingman, Dr. Ted Ingman. He was the head of the hydrology lab that spoke to a lowly undergrad that cold called him and brought me into this remote sensing and hydrology that ultimately led me to this career at NASA.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. I have so many questions. So I also want to ask you a question I've been wondering about a lot as I talk to earth science people at NASA. You mentioned how, like, when you first heard about NASA, you just thought about space. I have a feeling you probably get that a lot. Like, people don't really know about the Earth Sciences Division. How do you feel about that as, like, a cheerleader of everything that NASA does? I mean, is that frustrating, or is that kind of understandable?
It is true that every time I go out and speak, I talk about earth science. I'm like, you've probably heard about all the planets that NASA studies, but you may not know that we really started studying our own planet, right? Planet Earth. And our Earth Sciences Division is actually our largest division at Goddard. And so, yes, it's a constant messaging issue to make sure that people do know that we do study Earth, and it's a strong and important program. But it's true that I think the other parts of NASA capture the imagination. I mean, it's just something that people, that only NASA does, whereas for earth science, I think we have a lot of partners with NOAA, and with USGS, with Landsat. I mean, there's a lot, now in the commercial sector. I mean, there's so many folks doing earth science that, it doesn't stand out like it used to with our Earth observing system. But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think every time I talk, I message on that, but I think it's true that it is an underappreciated part of NASA.
Sure, yeah. All right, so back on you. Did you have any people or things that were sources of inspiration for you as you came up?
Yeah, well, I have to say, I mean, you start out with your parents, right? I mean, both of my parents are very technical people. I mean, my father was an engineer, electrical engineer. My mom actually was she ran a computer help desk, I mean, so I think they really supported me in, pursuing my geeky dreams. But, even beyond that, I think one of the most important influences in my career was one of my teachers. So my math teacher, actually, Mr. Hesbach. And so he was my math teacher first in middle school, and then he moved up into the high school when I moved up. So I actually had him as a teacher 3 times. And he also was like the coach of our math team. So we had a math contest team. Like, we would take these math contests and compete statewide.
Sure. Like from, what's the movie? Mean Girls. They have a math contest in it. Anyway. Yeah. So I was very into math contests.
Yeah. But he was really creative in his approach to teaching math, which I love, right? I mean, and I think that helped keep me interested and hooked. Because going through middle school and high school, I mean, a lot of people, especially women, right, drop out of math and science. And I just stuck with it because I was good at it and I loved it. And so he was a huge influence on me.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. And then is there anyone that you didn't see for inspiration that you wish you had?
Yeah, I really didn't. I mean, there were many times in my career, even these internships I'm talking about, there were no female mentors. Like, all of my mentors were men. So I was always wondering, like, where are all the women in hydrology, and where are all the women in earth science? And as time went on, I found them, but I think it was definitely something early on when I was in either undergraduate or even early graduate school days. It was a noticeable gap. And so I always felt I was there were definitely times when I was the only woman in the room or the only woman in a class. That was kind of the way it was for a while. But I'm so happy that it's not that way anymore.
And were there any obstacles to you being where you are today?
Yeah, so for me, I would say, well, first of all, this wasn't an obstacle, but it was a challenge. So let me just say that, like, my family really supported me when I had my 2 kids, right? So when my 2 kids were young, it was hard, I mean, not sleeping well, trying to like think. I mean, this job is about thinking and thinking clearly, and it's hard to think clearly. You're not getting sleep and you're dealing with a toddler and when they get ear infections and all that stuff. So my family was super supportive. I mean, my parents stayed with us for quite a while and helped with the kids. And then I should also point out that Goddard has on-site daycare and on-site lactation facilities. So amazing to me so much.
What year was this, by the way?
So, well, when I came to Goddard, it was 2001.
Okay.
But so the daycare and the lactation facilities were established, I think, well before that, probably at least 5 to 10 years before that. So just so progressive, right? Like now it seems like, oh, yeah, of course it does. But no, this was like a long time ago. So both of my kids went to the daycare here. They called it Space School. It was so cute. Space School. And they had like their class names were like the Little Dippers. I was in the constellations. It was like, oh, yeah. So I think obstacle-wise, just trying to be a working mother and trying to be there for all of their events and just balancing all that was hard. So, I mean, my husband's been super supportive. I mean, my parents, I mean, everyone, all my in-laws, it's been being here with a supportive family and has made it all possible.
That's fantastic. What personal achievement are you most proud of?
Yeah, so I would say one of the big projects I led when I came to Goddard was something called the Land Information System. And this was really a huge team effort, basically developing software that assimilates data from all kinds of satellites and tries to improve our understanding of the hydrology on the land surface. And that ultimately won the Software of the Year award from NASA in 2005. So that was really awesome. But I think what's even more awesome is that it has revolutionized the way the Air Force and the USAID, a program called FuseNet, which is the Famine Early Warning System Network, they both use that software now to help them with their decisions, right? So, I mean, it's more than just like bringing a bunch of data into a system. It's actually used to help them understand, like, is there going to be a drought? And is the drought going to get more severe? And is that going to lead to a famine? And then they make decisions about aid based on our forecasts of drought. Or in the Air Force case, they want to know, what is the soil moisture doing? How does that affect the ability of a tank to move through some area? Or they want to know, how does that affect the development of clouds and ultimately the visibility for Air Force? I mean, it's amazing. So like we've been able to bring the capabilities of NASA to these other agencies that are our partners.
So what's next on the horizon for you?
I'm the acting director right now. I'm looking forward to where our science missions are headed next. So in Earth science, we have the Earth System Observatory and specifically the Atmosphere Observing System, which we are getting ready to go into formulation very soon. We're working on Landsat Next, which is the next generation of the 50-year plus Landsat record. In heliophysics, we're working on the Geospace Dynamics constellation called GDC, which is going to revolutionize space weather. And of course, in in the solar system area, I mean, we're getting ready to have a sample come back from an asteroid. I mean, how amazing is that? It's going to land this fall. We're going to be able to analyze it. It's just amazing. And then we're getting ready to go to Venus, right? So we have a new mission called Da Vinci that's going to be not only orbiting around Venus, but going through the atmosphere. And, we're going to, for the first time, be able to really understand more about the composition of the Venusian atmosphere. And of course, following on the success of James Webb and astrophysics, we're looking at the next big space telescope, which is the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. So, that's in formulation right now, and we're looking forward to a new deep field survey that's going to be, many times greater than Hubble. And it's going to complement the kind of observations we're having from James Webb. So it's a great time to be in science. So many exciting flagships and other missions going on. And that's the best part about this job is I'm learning so much about every aspect of Earth and space science, and it's just fun. I love it.
It really does sound fun. That sounds super exciting. And yeah, what a time to be in Earth and space science. So what do you see as one of the biggest challenges in science today?
I think that we don't always connect the dots as well as we should about the impact of science on everything. I mean, science is the R&D for the future, right? So we learn about our universe, but ultimately we also, as we explore this universe, I mean, we're understanding, not only really fundamental questions about, where is life, how did life evolve? How did our universe evolve? But also, I mean, we are understanding the abundance of different elements. I mean, ultimately we might understand how different planets have evolved and how they've supported life, and we might be able to bring it back to supporting life on Earth, right? So, I mean, this Earth 1.0 is here, but Earth 2.0 could be out there. And so, imagine knowing our place in the universe and how we can have, a sustainable path towards intelligent life going forward. I mean, these are huge questions. I think if we look at some of the challenges, not just in terms of funding, but like in terms of partnerships, right? So, I mean, the other thing that's happening right now is that the private sector is revolutionizing access to space, right? So, I mean, we didn't have all these potential opportunities to reach space before. And now we're going to have, multiple space stations, and we're going to have different ways to get to Moon and the Mars. So I think it's like an exciting time, but it's a little uncertain because what is NASA's role in that? How does NASA help facilitate these partnerships and maintain a focus on the big questions while also partnering with the Earth and space sector to advance this new economy? I mean, there's going to be a new space economy. And how do you protect the science if everyone lands in a certain place and they want to set up a place to live there? Well, then what does that do to scientific investigations? I mean, if you've got a permanent presence on the Moon or on Mars, who decides what you can do for scientific use versus for commercial use? So that's, I think, a big challenge we're going to have to navigate as we move forward. Is like, this is a new era, right? It's back with it's like when we first started exploring the South Pole, and we set up research stations on the South Pole, and we have international agreements, about who maintains what and how you help each other out. We're going to need similar, and we are working on that for the Artemis Accords, right? So how do you share space going forward, and how do you govern space? So lots of really thorny policy issues, but as a scientist, I'm especially interested in all of the opportunities can lead to amazing new discoveries, and they can lead us in paths that we can't even anticipate right now. So,
yeah, gosh. Yeah, those are big questions, but probably pretty exciting to be able to be involved in making them right.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. Is there anything that you want to plug or make sure that the audience knows about what you're working on or what other people are working on?
Yeah, so I would just say that NASA, especially Goddard Space Flight Center, I mean, this is a special place, right? We conceive of new missions, we design them, we build them, we launch them, we operate them, and then we think of the next thing. And so what an amazing place to be. And, I got to give a shout out. It's not just the scientists, it's the engineers, it's the project managers, it's the facilities folks. I mean, it's everyone. Safety. I mean, we're all part of a team. And what I love about Goddard is the team. I feel like we work so well when we work together, and we make great things happen.
Well, Vicki, do you think this podcast is a special place?
I do. I feel like it's a special, physical and metaphorical place for me.
That's so nice.
I love sitting in my basement and hearing great stories and talking to you. It's fun.
Yeah, and what folks don't, they see some of this or hear some of this in our stingers or on the stuff. If you're not finding us on Instagram or TikTok, you can see, you should, because you get to see us actually do this if you're interested in that and some of our silly outtakes. But no, I agree with you. This has been really great. And the reason why we're kind of waxing a little bit poetic about this is the final episode of our first season, our first weekly release season. So yeah, this has been really great, Vicki.
It has been great. It's been super fun.
Good. Because we're doing it again. But in addition to all the wonderful people who made this season an episode happen, credits incoming, I want to thank all of you out there for listening. I would Vicki and I would do this kind of regardless if AG would allow us to do it, because this is fun for us. But it really means a lot for all of you out there listening and responding and engaging with us. And so just as a logistical thing, we're going to take a couple months to start on season 2.
Can you tell us anything about season 2? Can you reveal anything?
Sure. Yeah, we have
everyone.
Yeah, we have some stuff nailed down. We're gonna have some more stories from NASA, which will be really exciting. We're gonna be talking climate change and math, and trust me, it's really gonna be super interesting. We're partnering with another organization to tell some really fun and fascinating and fantastic stories. And then I know this fall, I know it's a ways for now, but this is how we plan these things. We're going to dive into the science behind horror and science fiction around spooky season. So among other things. So they're just kind of the things we have listed on our slate already.
I'm so excited for what the next season will bring.
Yeah, no, I am too. In the meantime, we are going to still be releasing, doing some re-releases, some special releases in the pod on the feed. So be sure to pay attention to that. But for now, that is all from Third Pod from the Sun.
Special thanks to Ashely Hamer for conducting the interview and to NASA for sponsoring the series.
This episode was produced by Jason Rodriguez and me, with audio engineering from Collin Warren and artwork by Karen Romano Young.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please rate and review us, and you can find new episodes on your favorite podcasting app or at thirdpodfromthesun.com.
Thanks all, and we'll see you next week. Again, I don't know what we're doing.
QVC channel, I feel like QVC, what would the title of our show be on QVC? We're selling penny loafers, paper planners, Kindles.
Tailored suits.
And tailored suits. Anyway, it would just be a show just for us. I don't even know what QVC shows are named anyway.
Back to being basic.
Back to being basic.
Back to in parentheses being the basics.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That'd be it. It'd be back to being the basics.
I feel like that's a brand of socks somehow.
What
Third Pod from the Sun.
It feels like a knockoff like Papyrus store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like even like I know that's like the paper planning part of it, but just like all those things together feel very of a piece, even though they are different wares. All right. Anyways,
now I'm gonna look at penny loafers this afternoon online.
Okay. I want this for you.